because of the way they had built out their systems or their infrastructure or other things that they were focused on. So we spent a lot of time on change management. Before that, I was a customer of this bank. So I work for Texas Rangers baseball. I'm still waiting for a World Series here in the DFW area, hoping that will come next year with a new ballpark. So I've been on that side where I dealt with everything around the bank, including, you know, the lending, the moving of money, personal use, etc. So I want today to focus on a couple of things around this. And you know what? I think I have the wrong presentation. Wow. Hang on one second. I do. There we go. And I knew I had the wrong presentation because I didn't have these challenges. So sorry about that. But I want to focus on a couple of things as we talk about the data ecosystems today. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking through what we need to be thinking about with all the different data ecosystems, and then I want to talk about client experience. Because in the end, everything that we're all doing goes back to what is the client experience. And if it's not a good experience, as each of you know, in the things that you do every day, then it won't be useful and it won't be used. And in the end, whatever you are going to build and deliver for us, we want to make sure that you're thinking about it with the client experience hat. So we talked about the 5 challenges originally, just a little bit ago, very open. Texas Capital has added a couple of challenges to this. So one is around data. So we want to change the commercial banking customer experience through the use of data. So we encourage you to go back and think about what the data is, and that's, I hope I get the creative juices going with the things that we talk about today. And then the second is to change the landscape of commercial banking by creating a use case for real-time payments. And when we think about, and I know that you guys are aware of this, but so much runs in batch and it takes a long time, and when you're moving payments across the continents, you're not sure where the payment is and how much it's going to cost, and did it make it, and is everybody happy? So it's amazing what real-time payments can actually do, not just across continents, but here, and the expectations around that. So let's get started. So from a data perspective, let's go back and compare it to oil. When I was younger, and I got my car, and I was going off to college, my dad said, Susan, oil is to your car as water is to your body. So make sure that you put oil in your car. And I always remembered that, and I never ran out of oil, and I checked it and did what I needed to do. Now when we think about what is the most valuable resource that we have in this world, I still think that water is the most important, but data has become a very treasured resource. We have a lot of it. It continues to expand. There's so much that we can do with it. But where do we start, and what do we need to do around that? So one of the things that I was thinking about when I was putting together this presentation is that we're not building an environment. This is something that truly is an ecosystem, because it is ever changing. And when you see what you're doing, I know when you guys are looking at it, and the things that you're building and doing today, it's like, I did this, and then, wow, it's already out of date in about 3 months because someone else took it to a new level and is doing something different. So it truly is something that's changing, and we need to be thinking about that as we do it. So what is involved with a data ecosystem? There are 3 parts. It's around the applications, then the infrastructure, and then finally the analytics that can come from that. But how do we really think about that from a business perspective? What does it do? It provides information around pricing, it provides information around marketing, and it provides information around operations. As you're going through this hackathon and thinking about what can we do for that TCB challenge, These are some of the part of the framework to be thinking about. Pricing, marketing, and operations. Now I'm gonna stop and talk about this banking ecosystem for a little bit. And there's a lot on there, and I just scraped the surface as we were putting this presentation together. Because the first thing we think about is just what is inside the bank. I think Maynard said this, but to me a while ago, but there's a lot more around a bank than just the retail bank. And I know with Finastra, you focus a lot on the commercial banking side. But Texas Capital is a little bit unique. When I came from this very large bank, I think we had 80 different offerings to our clients. When I came over to Texas Capital, we're focused on the commercial banking side. So that is it. So it's like we're working with businesses. We have private wealth and some other pieces, but our main goal is to help our customers to prosper, and it's around companies. It's a lot of fun to be a part of it. But as I came over, I had been on the sales side, over in treasury management. I was helping our clients to integrate, and then I moved over into the product world, and I was like, wow, we have all kinds of things behind. Now, I knew that before when I was at the larger bank because we had to go and use all the different systems. But when I came over here, I didn't realize there was a Finastra that was powering a lot that we're doing behind it. And I'll talk about the vendors. But when you think about the infrastructure, just within the bank, we have a big data lake that we're using. We have a CRM that we're using, such as a Salesforce. We have a loan system, so when we're lending to our clients, and I know you guys are focused on lending here at this location, we have something that's called a DDA system, but with every one of our clients, they have to have an account, a bank account, just like you have to have a bank account. And that's some of the things that will be changing in this environment that we have. We have an accounting system. I'm not even sure what the name of that accounting system is. We have a cost accounting system. And then we also have something that we don't really think about, but we have surveys. So when we go back and we think about the data that's available to us, a lot goes back to surveys. So I would encourage you to think about those pieces. Then when we think about the data ecosystem, then the bank has their vendors. So we have vendors like you. So we have Finastra, we have Fiserv, we have FIS. Chris is in the room, so he can tell me a lot of the others that we have. We use other banks. So I think we have PNC sitting in the room. So from a lockbox perspective, I'll just say I think they have the best lockbox offering in banking. And so we actually competition. So we're working with PNC from a banking perspective and helping our clients to take in their payments. We have fraud tools that we use, and then we have, of course, the card network. So you think about Visa and MasterCard that are out there. Those are all different pieces of this ecosystem. And when you're thinking about what can we be doing, what can we create in this hackathon from a data perspective, these are important pieces, and where you think about the APIs that might be available. Then we look at other APIs that might be out there. Logistics, I mean, what can we do? Something from a Federal Express or UPS or something else around that. We've got clients, and logistics is a huge part of their business. So what is it that we might can do, creating something like that? The weather service. I mean, when you think about, again, from an experience for our clients and data, et cetera, around them, is there anything that we could be doing when, I don't know, a hurricane's coming in Florida, we have a client that's sitting over there, and we need to do some kind of disaster recovery around that? How could we link all of these different pieces together to make that a different experience? Then we have the customer, and I'm going to stop and spend a few minutes around this. So, and this is where I spend a lot of time. So think about what I've said already. We have the bank, we have our vendors like Finastra, we have all of this other that's happening and available. And then we have our clients. And it was funny, I decided I would add a lot of these different pieces, but I have worked with clients, and when we look at what they've got, we have clients, one of the deals that I did before, they had 8 different systems of record. So they had 8 ERP systems, and with those ERP systems, they had different versions. So there were 16 different systems that we had to work with in order to help them to move to electronic payments. On top of that, there are treasury workstations. So we think about the ERP system with all of the different modules, but they're also looking for things that are best in class. So PeopleSoft may have its own treasury workstation, but they're like, I don't think I want to use PeopleSoft. I want to use Kyriba because they're doing some new and different things out there. They help from a working capital, and I want everybody's ears to perk up when I say working capital, because how cool would it be that you could create something for us to help our clients from a working capital perspective with data that's coming out of one of these systems, and then helping them to be proactive in what they're looking at instead of reactive in what they're looking at to be prosperous and make better decisions. So Kyriba from a treasury workstation, or a G-Treasure. Then you've got billing systems. So you think about it from on the AR side. When you look at a lot of these clients, they're taking in checks, they're taking in ACH, they're taking in cards, they're taking in a new form of payment that somebody may come up with or be thinking about. They're taking them in from domestic sources. They're coming in from customers that are on the retail side. They may be taking them in from individuals. So all of it is something that impacts our clients and how they do, and what is the data, what can we be doing around that data, or what can we be doing from a real-time perspective to make that a different situation. It was interesting, I was out at Money 2020, and I was amazed. This was the first year that I went. I was amazed at the number of vendors that they have at this conference. But one of the things that was talked about on the restaurant side was to begin to pay restaurant employees on a daily basis instead of on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. And then you start thinking about, okay, what does that really look like at some point in time? And maybe not from a payroll perspective, ever from a real-time, but it could be, I mean, from incentives, or someone goes out and does something on a job-by-job basis. Maybe that is something that comes back and is real-time. So, so much a part of it. Procurement system. I know Finastra, I think, has a supply chain finance piece that I saw in one of the presentations. And so when you start thinking about the ecosystem around the way that our clients do business, then I don't know, does anyone know what supply chain finance is in here? Couple. So I'll stop and talk about it. But basically, if you are, you're one of our companies, and you're trying to do business, I'm gonna make it up, in China, and you've got a lot of suppliers, and you wanna pay them in 90 days, because that's the terms, right? And they're like, well, we can't stay in business if you're paying us in 90 days. Then they're gonna use our client's credit and be able to say, you know what, I want that money in 15 days versus 90 days. So our client's still paying in 90 days, but there is a financial arrangement that allows for that payment in 15 days. Really important stuff. But think about the data. How can we help our clients? If we understand who they're having to pay, then how can we help them to be able to make some better decisions around building out those win-win relationships with those vendors? So all so important as we think about it. Then social media. So we're lending money to all these clients. We're putting a bet on them. We're gonna give you 50 million. We're gonna give you 300 million. we're gonna give you 500 million, whatever it looks like. And we're betting that you are gonna prosper and grow and be able to pay us that money back. That as you go out and you look at, all the things that are available, what are they doing out on social media that tells us, oh my goodness, they just had this big breach, and what is that gonna do to impact us? Or they just are, have a new owner, whatever it might be. We should be involved in some of that. But there is so much data that can help us internally as a bank and then help our clients. So it's all of this and more. So from a creative juice perspective, I want you guys to be thinking about this. Now I'm gonna stop for just a minute because I've said a lot around on the client side, and sometimes we don't really stop and think, what is the end user doing? So I'll just ask real quickly, are there any questions or comments? Anybody had a great experience? No? All right, we'll keep going. I've got about 12 minutes. So how did we even get here? And this goes back to the open banking. So basically, I think it started in Europe, and they said, hey, you guys are gonna have to start cooperating. And you're gonna have to share banks, you're gonna have to open up your kimono, share what you've got, and allow something to be done differently. And hence APIs. And it's funny, when I talk to clients about APIs, so often they still think that a flat file is an API. It's really interesting. So anytime that a client will call and say, hey, do you have APIs? And we want to do something about it. I have to say, all right, let me get on the phone with them. What do you mean by API? Kid you not, probably 80% of the time that goes back to just some type of flat file.
So like they want to upload a flat file or something, or here's my file, just take it?
Yes, yes. And so that's been pretty interesting, and that goes back to all of these systems. So thinking about all the different systems that we have up there, and when you guys were talking about, I think like first generation, when we're thinking about APIs, our clients and all of these systems have to catch up. It's amazing, a lot of the proprietary systems. I worked a lot with exploration and production companies, and they're, I cannot remember the name of this database that Volo sits on, but there are some really interesting things that have been built out there, and they're trying to figure out how to get away from them. But these are all things we're gonna have to figure out. How do we do this, and how can we, again, bring them data and great experiences?